Short.
Mr. President, I move to consider Senate Bill number 1950 and ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure.
Secretary will read the title of the measure.
Senate Bill number 1950, an act providing for the conduct of hybrid national, local, and Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao elections through manual automated voting, counting, canvassing, consolidation, and transmission, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 38436 as amended and for other purposes.
We recognize the sponsor, Mr. President, Senator Jaime Marcos, to sponsor the measure.
Senator Jaime Marcos is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my esteemed colleagues of the Philippine Senate. Good afternoon. Voting, it has been said, is not only our right, but more importantly, it is our power. Or is it? As our Senate President most aptly explained when he filed this Senate bill, we must safeguard the voting power of a sovereign people, that it may never be diminished by the problems inherent to a fully automated election system. We submit today, in the spirit of that greatest of all democratic powers, Committee Report 151, sponsoring herewith the substitute bill 1950 entitled An Act Providing for the Conduct of Hybrid National, Local, and Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao elections through manual automated voting, counting, canvassing, consolidation, and transmission, amending for the purpose Republic Act 8436 as amended and for other purposes. Over 12 years ago, in August of 2008, with mixed excitement and trepidation, following a complex and controversial award to a foreign company, the Commission on Elections embarked on the first automated election in the Philippines in the ARMM. Like our public school teachers sitting as the Board of Election Inspectors, we were enthralled by the speed, the ease, the blinding efficiency of the PCOS machines, thoroughly convinced that in order to reduce election fraud, all we had to do was to remove human intervention. Yet over a decade later, after several automated elections, the question has arisen. Have we surrendered our right to vote, that greatest of all powers, to the machine, the PCOS, the VCM, the servers, facilitated by software and incomprehensible algorithms in the quest for expediency and efficiency? In truth, we are not the first country to reconsider their automated voting system. Already, Singapore undertakes its first round of counting manually, only later the second round being done electronically after each machine undergoes rigorous and public pre-counting. Switzerland also combines both manual and electronic voting using an elaborate combination of high-tech and voter verification. Most notoriously, Germany, following the lead of other developed countries with advanced electronic capabilities, has simply given up and reverted right back to a manual system, as have Japan, New Zealand, Denmark, Finland, Ireland, Netherlands, Norway, Spain, and the UK. But in the Philippines, with over 100 million people, a huge fraction of whom are voters, with our geography as difficult as an archipelago, we should not give up on an automated election, but instead, in true Filipino fashion, hybridize it into our very own election system. Diskarteng Pinoy, malikhain at maparaan. Nakabuo ng GI Jeep na jeepney, ng butterfly sleeves na terno, mistisang beauty queen at atletang askal. Mulat sa pool, hybrid ang ating kinagisnan. Elections belong to the people, yet our current election system has been accused of lacking transparency. Very few voters can claim familiarity with the multifarious software and hardware utilized, much less the quagmire of servers mentioned. Article 2, Section 1 of our Constitution intones sovereignty resides in the people and all government authority emanates from them. Yet to some Filipinos, political power has now been wrested by unknown and sinister machines. Sadly, every election is marred by charges of widespread fraud and cheating, perhaps deriving from deep doubts in the fundamental lack of transparency of public access and the scrutiny of records and procedures. Secondly, while Article 5, Section 2 of our Constitution mandates a system for securing the secrecy and sanctity of the ballot, many have faulted the absence of secure processes with each of its essential phases understood by the voters, with ascertainable results in each case and timeframes well established. Thirdly, we should create a system that is above all simple, not requiring any specialized knowledge of IT or even of election law, accessible to the ordinary one, certain and secure because it is understood clearly by all. A transparent, clear-cut process not requiring any specialist knowledge was envisioned by our Senate President when he filed Senate Bill number 7. And today, let us finally address the problems he identified arising from a fully automated election. Our bill today seeks to combine appropriate and tested technology in voting, counting, consolidating, canvassing, and transmission of election results with a parallel manual count of votes to confirm the electronic results. We want to enjoy the speed and facility of automated elections, but make certain that we back up this efficiency with the evidence of manual counting conducted publicly at the precinct level. First, the process begins with procurement, which, despite the persistent canard, remains entirely intact. The requisites of the National Procurement Law unchanged under Section 9. We reiterate that prospective system providers should still have to prove demonstrated capability and successfully undertaken a prior electoral exercise, here or abroad. We must at all costs avoid a failure of election caused by an incompetent or untested bidder. Still, in order to open procurement to as many prospective bidders as possible, our bill echoes the long-established DBM Government Procurement Policy Board rule that the requirement for a prior single largest completed contract may be foregone when a failure of bidding is imminent or monopolistic or novel requisites are observed. Thus, following these guidelines, we require in our bill simply the less onerous proof of financial, technical, and organizational capability to conduct such exercise. We pray that with this reminder, many will qualify, many more potential bidders to provide a new opportunity, especially for capable and talented Filipino systems providers in the IT sector. Proceeding to the ballots, which for auditability must be paper-based, we have introduced new features, including a barcode to be scanned, a square format requiring a single vertical line to register a vote, not unlike the very familiar lotto ticket. And for persons with disabilities and those unable to read or write, the COMELEC may prescribe an even simpler ballot to facilitate voting. And to avoid previous concerns about the printing of the ballots, only the National Printing Office and the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas may print the official ballots using its own printing machines under our new law. Thus, after voting is completed and the polls are closed, the Board of Election Inspectors shall proceed, as it has before, with the electronic counting and transmission of the digital election returns via VCM, or vote counting machine. Thereafter, the BEI will now set up the manual counting of the actual ballots, following the procedures established in previous manual elections using the ancient TARA system and manual preparation of election returns. Such manual counting shall be in plain view of the precinct public, whether through electronic projection if available or through traditional written counting. Live streaming or video recording of the manual counting shall be allowed by the COMELEC to accredited groups such as NAMFREL, PPCRV, and other NGOs, at the same time prohibiting the exploitation of such footage through media in violation of the rights of the election inspectors. No doubt this new process will take longer, as proven by several practice run-throughs, and result in added work for our election administrators. But that surely is a small price to pay to ensure transparency and the credibility of our electoral process. With therefore 2 sets of election returns accomplished, the first showing the manual count of the ballots to be canvassed alongside the electronically transmitted and digitally signed election returns. These will then be transmitted to the central server, the transparency server, and to the municipal or city board of canvassers. Here we propose a new addition, one that has been successfully implemented overseas, that when a discrepancy of at least 2% in the total number of votes cast between the automated results versus the manually counted results, a manual recount shall be automatically undertaken. A comparison between the digitally captured image of the ballot and the ballot itself shall be made even before the recount, and the final result of the recount shall be reflected in manually prepared election returns. We herein seek to reinforce that elusive paper trail that has been the advocacy since early 2004 of our Senators Gordon and Recto fighting through 2 Supreme Court cases triumphantly. Also, an important feature of the bill is the requirement for a separate aggregator of the transmitted results, an entity distinct from the supplier of the machines. Given the myriad transmission issued, raised by the Senate President and many of like mind, an independent aggregator shall focus solely on quick and accurate transmission, and being directly accountable to the COMELEC will provide public access to information throughout the transmission process. To avoid the mishandling of data or any component of this transmission by the ISPs and the telecommunications companies, may we count on Senator Grace Poe's support and intercession. Finally, the election returns transmitted shall be digitally signed as official election results, the DICT now assuring us of their newfound capability to verify such signatures never having been used before. The urgency and importance of such digital signatures to be required at every stage of transmission merely strengthens our support for Senator Ping Lacson's plea for a more generous ICT budget in 2021 and in the following years. Our Senate President, in his 2 privileged speeches in March of 2018, bravely and eloquently raised the burning questions surrounding transmission in the 2016 national and local elections. An early transmission of votes, foreign access in election servers, the installation of additional devices known as queuing servers, a mysterious script change, and an incomplete transmission of results. He was hardly wrong, as in 2019, a 7-hour glitch once again marred the transmission of results. We have put in place numerous security measures in both the communication system and step by step through the transmission to the National Canvassing Board. Certainly, during our periods of forthcoming debate and interpellation, we shall explain more extensively these new features of strong authentication, mutual entity authentication, data origin authentication, data integrity, non-reputation of origin, anti-replay of retransmitted election returns, and the post-election audit ability transmitted data. manyaring hindi natin lubos maintindihan ang mga teknikalidad na ito. Subalit bantay sarado po tayo dyan, kasama ng bagong lakas, bagong bigoteng Senator Bato de la Rosa. Thus, 2 certificates of canvass shall be accomplished. One under the automated election system, the other under the manual election system. Once again, in the event of a recount, whether automatically engendered by a result with a 2% discrepancy or otherwise, a manual recount will be undertaken. Subsequent and substantial discrepancies between these and the election returns may be used as prima facie evidence of cyber electoral fraud should an election protest arise, thus avoiding, in part, the exhaustive, not to mention hideously expensive practice of retrieving the ballots from far-flung precincts to conduct revision. As an added fillip, to avoid premature campaigning, the filling of certificates of candidacy under this bill shall not be earlier than December 15, preceding the day of the election. The consequence of this change is to limit the substitution of candidates to only cases of death and disqualification, so as not to disrupt the timeline for printing and distribution of ballots to all the precincts of our archipelago. Senator Bongo, pasaklono na lang po, hari naway, di tayo mabito dahil dito. But our hybrid election effort is without doubt a work in progress, which despite long and contentious hearings, despite copious documentation and attempted live run-throughs with the COMELEC last year, has been stymied in the time of the pandemic. Many newfangled ideas have arisen. For example, how to expand suffrage through mail-in ballots, the early voting for seniors, PWDs, and government agents who will be on duty on election day, an extended 2 to 3 day polling, budgetary considerations for, in fact, the initial reconfiguration of a hybrid manual and electronic system requires additional funds, will also affect the practical issues of implementation. Although I have no desire to inflict further pains on our long-suffering co-chairman of finance, Senator Sonny Angara. A continuing rationalization of confusing and even conflicting laws, both under the manual and automated elections, deriving from the old 1981 compilations, make it urgent that we have a new omnibus election code. For all this, we count on Senator Villar, Senator Cayetano, and hopefully Senator Drilon for their generous participation and consultation, as well as Senator Tolentino and the former chairman of the Committee on Electoral Reform, Senator Coco Pimentel, to truly complete and finalize a new Filipino hybrid election system. That it should at last be true to our political choices, that electoral results resonate with our people's voice, and that they should be executed the supreme power of the people. For when every vote is well and truly counted, when every Filipino is finally heard from each precinct throughout the land, perhaps we can say that indeed the people's voice has been heard and our nation has begun to heal. Mabuhay ang sambayan ng Pilipino, itaguyod ang kapangyarihang bumoto at dinggin. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Majority Leader.